Zara Mitchell's hands wouldn't stop shaking as she stared at the two pink lines. The pregnancy test clattered against the marble sink in the luxury penthouse bathroom, and she gripped the counter's edge so hard her knuckles went white. Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows behind her, Seoul's glittering Itaewon skyline blurred through the downpour and her tears. No, 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 she whispered, her voice cracking. This can't be happening. But it was happening. 6 weeks pregnant. And suddenly, every carefully constructed piece of her life in Korea was collapsing like a house of cards in a typhoon. The bathroom door handle turned. Zara's heart stopped. She hadn't locked it. Why hadn't she locked it? Kong Jin-woo stepped inside, his 6'1" frame filling the doorway. The dragon tattoo on his forearm seemed to writhe in the dim lighting as he leaned against the frame. Perfectly calm, perfectly controlled. He was still wearing his Armani suit from the business dinner they'd attended, but his tie was loosened now, the top button of his shirt undone. His dark eyes found the pregnancy test on the counter, then shifted to her face. He didn't look surprised. He looked satisfied. So, Jin-woo said softly, switching from Korean to English, his voice carrying that dangerous smoothness she'd once found charming. You found out. Zara's breath came in short gasps. Found out? Jin-woo, how is this possible? You said you were careful. You promised you were always careful. He pushed off the doorframe and moved toward her with the predatory grace of a man who'd spent his life taking what he wanted. I was careful. Until I decided not to be. The words hit her like a physical blow. Zara stumbled backward until her spine pressed against the cold window. What? Jin-woo stopped just inches from her, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne mixed with the rain scent clinging to his jacket. 4 weeks ago. The night you showed me your return ticket to Atlanta. Remember? She did remember. She'd been so excited, showing him the plane ticket scheduled for 3 weeks from now, talking about how he could visit her in the States, how they could make long-distance work. She'd been planning her exit strategy from Seoul, from this whirlwind romance that had consumed 8 months of her life. You got me pregnant on purpose? The words came out strangled, disbelieving. I made sure you'd stay, Jin-woo corrected, his hand reaching up to touch her face. She flinched, but there was nowhere to go. The window pressed cold against her back. I saw that ticket, and I realized I couldn't let you leave. So I took away your choice. That's not love. Zara's voice rose, anger finally breaking through the shock. That's kidnapping. That's reproductive coercion. That's mine. Jin-woo interrupted, his hand moving down to rest against her still flat stomach. You're mine now, Zara. Forever. You're carrying my child. My bloodline. Do you understand what that means? She shoved his hand away, trying to push past him, but he caught her wrist. Not violently. He never hurt her, which somehow made it worse, but immovably. His grip was iron wrapped in silk. Let me go, she demanded. No. Jin-woo, let me go. He pulled her closer instead, speaking directly against her ear, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You think I'd let you walk away? After everything we built together? After I opened myself to you in ways I've never opened to anyone? You saw me, Zara. The real me. Not the businessman. Not the respected entrepreneur. Me. And you think I'd just let you fly back to Atlanta and forget this ever happened? Zara's knees weakened, but whether from fear or something more complicated, she couldn't tell. Jin-woo held her up effortlessly, one arm wrapping around her waist. I hate you, she whispered, even as her body betrayed her by leaning into his support. I know, he said simply, but you'll stay anyway, because you have no choice now. He guided her out of the bathroom, through the penthouse's expansive living room with its leather furniture and modern art that had once impressed her so much. Now it all felt like part of a trap she'd walked into willingly, stupidly. The floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Seoul's nightscape. Millions of lights, millions of people going about their lives, completely unaware that hers had just been stolen. Jin-woo sat on the leather couch and pulled her down beside him. She wanted to resist, to fight, but exhaustion was already seeping into her bones. He picked up a tablet from the coffee table and swiped through something before turning the screen toward her. This is why you can never leave, he said. The screen showed security footage. Zara recognized herself immediately. Earlier that day, shopping in Gangnam. But the angle was wrong. This wasn't from a store's security camera. This was surveillance footage, zoomed in, focused entirely on her. In the corner of the frame, 2 men in dark jackets were photographing her with a long lens. Who are they? Her voice came out small, frightened. I don't know yet, Jin-woo admitted, and for the first time, she heard something other than confidence in his voice. Fear. That's what terrifies me. He swiped to another image. Different location, different day. Same men, different clothes. Same long lens trained on her. How long have you known about this? 3 days. Same day I confirmed your pregnancy. He set the tablet down and turned to face her fully. Zara, I need you to understand something. I'm not just a businessman. I run the Biko cartel. White Tiger. We control 40% of luxury goods smuggling in East Asia. Watches, handbags, pharmaceuticals, art. If it's expensive and crosses a border illegally, we probably moved it. The room tilted. Zara gripped the couch cushion. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman in a business that happens to be illegal, he corrected. And my enemies include the Yakuza, 3 Chinese triad families, the Busan gangs, and at least 5 government officials who'd love to see me dead. If any of them find out about you, about this baby, you become the most valuable weapon in Seoul. Then let me go. Zara stood abruptly, pacing toward the windows. Let me fly home. They'll never find me in Atlanta. Jean Woo's laugh was bitter. You think 12 hours on a plane puts you out of reach? Zara, you're not thinking clearly. These people have operations in every major city in the world. If they want to find you, they will. The only place you're safe is with me, where I can protect you. Protect me? She whirled on him. You're the reason I need protection. You did this. You trapped me here. Yes, he said simply, standing and crossing to her. I did. Because the alternative was losing you, and I've lost enough in my life. I won't lose you too. You never had me to lose. Didn't I? He was close again, invading her space, his eyes searching hers. 8 months, Zara. 8 months of dinners and conversations and nights when you told me things you've never told anyone. 8 months of you looking at me like I was more than just a monster in an expensive suit. You think I don't know what we built? You think I don't know you fell for me just as hard as I fell for you? Past tense, she shot back, even though they both knew she was lying. Even now, terrified and furious and trapped, part of her responded to his proximity. That was the worst part, her body's betrayal. I loved who I thought you were. Not this. This is who I've always been, Jinwoo said quietly. I just stopped hiding it. And here's something else you need to know, because I'm done with secrets between us. He walked to the apartment's entrance and pointed at the door. Biometric lock. My fingerprint only. The elevator requires a key card that I keep with me at all times. Security in the lobby knows not to let you leave without me. And if you somehow make it to the street. He pulled out his phone and showed her an app, a tracking application with a blinking red. That represented her location. I'll know exactly where you are. Always. The reality crashed over her in waves. This wasn't a romantic gesture gone wrong. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was premeditated, calculated imprisonment. How long have you been planning this? She asked. Your job at Noir Fashion House? Jinwoo's voice was matter-of-fact. I own the company. Your apartment building? Mine. Your friend Min SEO who introduced us at that gallery opening 8 months ago? She's been on my payroll for 2 years. Your favorite coffee shop in Samcheong-dong? I bought it 6 months before we met and trained the barista to remember your order. Zara felt like she was drowning. Everything? My entire life here was. Orchestrated, he finished. Every coincidence. Every chance meeting. Every moment you thought you were making your own choices. I created the environment for those choices. I saw your portfolio 6 months ago. Became obsessed with your work, your smile in a photograph, the way you looked at the world. So I built a trap disguised as opportunity and waited for you to walk into it. She slid down the window until she was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. The tears came then, hot and angry and terrified all at once. Jinwoo watched her for a long moment, then moved to the bedroom. When he returned, he had a blanket. He draped it over her shoulders without trying to comfort her otherwise, respecting at least that boundary. I'll give you tonight to process, he said. Tomorrow, we have a doctor's appointment. Private clinic. Full prenatal care. You can fight me every step of the way, Zara, or you can accept that this is your life now. Either way, you're not going anywhere. He left her there by the window, and she heard the click of the bedroom door locking from the outside. Zara sat in the dark, hand moving to her stomach where a life she'd never chosen was growing. Outside, Seoul glittered with possibility and freedom that belonged to everyone except her. That night, she planned her first escape attempt. She didn't know it would take 3 tries before she realized there was nowhere to run. The morning came too soon. Zara woke on the living room floor, the blanket twisted around her, her face stiff from dried tears. The smell of cooking drew her attention. Jinwoo was in the kitchen. Preparing breakfast like this was a normal morning in a normal relationship. Ginger tea is on the counter, he called without turning. Better for morning sickness. She wanted to refuse it on principle, but her stomach was already churning. Zara pushed herself up and walked to the kitchen, keeping the counter between them like a barrier. The tea was perfect, exactly how she liked it, because of course he knew. He knew everything about her. He'd made sure of that. We leave for the clinic in an hour, Jinwoo said, plating kimchi jjigae. You should eat something. I'm not going anywhere with you. He finally looked at her, his expression patient in a way that made her want to scream. Yes, you are. You can walk or I can carry you. But we're going. Our baby needs prenatal care, and I'm not taking chances with either of your lives. Stop saying our Zara snapped. This isn't a partnership. This is a hostage situation. Call it what you want. The appointment is at 10. He checked his watch, expensive, understated, the kind of detail she'd once found attractive. Shower, get dressed. I laid out clothes for you in the guest room. I can pick my own clothes. Then pick them. I don't care what you wear, Zara. I care that you're in the car in 55 minutes. She stormed to the guest room, her prison apparently, and found a simple dress laid out on the bed. Part of her wanted to wear something else just to defy him, but exhaustion won. She showered, dressed, and emerged to find Jinwoo waiting by the door with two large men in black suits. This is Hwan and Tae-soo. Jinwoo introduced them. Your security detail. Hwan was silent and scarred, muscles straining against his suit jacket. Tae-soo had a friendlier face, but his eyes were just as cold. Both men bowed slightly to her. My jailers, you mean, Zara said. Your protection, Jinwoo corrected. Those men surveilling you? They're still out there. Hwan and Tae-soo make sure nothing happens to you. The ride to the clinic was tense. Zara sat in the back of the black SUV, Jinwoo beside her, his hand resting near hers on the leather seat but not touching. Behind them, another vehicle followed, more security. Through the tinted windows, Seoul passed by in a blur of normalcy that felt like mockery. You're being dramatic, Jinwoo said quietly. Dramatic? Zara turned to him, keeping her voice low so the driver wouldn't hear. You got me pregnant without my consent, revealed you're a criminal, and assigned me bodyguards. Which part should I be calm about? The part where I'm trying to keep you alive. I wouldn't need keeping alive if you'd just let me go home. There is no home anymore, he said, and something in his voice made her look at him properly. He looked tired, she realized. Stressed. The moment those men started following you, Atlanta stopped being safe. America stopped being safe. Anywhere in the world I can't protect you stopped being safe. Don't you understand? This isn't about control. It's about survival. You're lying. I wish I was. The clinic was hidden in Cheongdam-dong, accessible only through a private entrance that required 3 separate security checks. The wealth here was obscene. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, staff that moved with the quiet efficiency of people used to serving Korea's elite. Dr. Yoon was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. She greeted Jinwoo with obvious familiarity and respect that bordered on fear. When she turned to Zara, she spoke in Korean. Do you speak English? Zara asked. Dr. Yoon smiled apologetically. Only a little. Mr. Kong translates, yes? Another isolation tactic. Of course. Zara bit back her frustration and submitted to the examination, letting Jinwoo translate the doctor's questions, hating every second of her dependence on him. But then came the ultrasound. The room darkened. Dr. Yoon moved the wand across Zara's stomach, and suddenly there it was on the screen, a tiny flutter of movement, barely visible, but unmistakably alive. The heartbeat filled the room, rapid and strong. Zara's breath caught. Beside her, Jinwoo had gone completely still. She glanced at him and saw something she'd never seen before, tears running silently down his face as he stared at the screen. Healthy, Dr. Yoon said in English, smiling. Very healthy. Baby perfect. Jinwoo reached for Zara's hand without looking away from the screen, and for once, she didn't pull away. The moment was too big, too overwhelming. That tiny heartbeat was half her, but it was also half him, and that complicated reality crashed over both of them in the darkened room. When they left the clinic, Zara felt different. Not better. She was still trapped, still furious, still terrified. But different. The baby was real now, not just 2 pink lines on a test. I've been learning Korean, she said in the car, breaking the silence. Jinwoo looked at her in surprise. What? For 3 months. Online lessons. I understood most of what Dr. Yoon said. Something flickered across his face. Was it respect? Pride? Why didn't you tell me? Because you don't tell me anything, Zara shot back. Why should I? He studied her for a long moment. Fair enough. Keep studying. You'll need it. The next 2 weeks fell into a strange routine. Jinwoo gave her freedom, supervised freedom, but freedom nonetheless. Juan and Taesu accompanied her everywhere, silent shadows that kept other shadows at bay. She could go shopping, visit cafes, walk through Seoul's neighborhoods. But she could never be alone, never be unwatched. On the fifth day, Zara found herself at a small coffee shop in Samcheongdong. The barista's face lit up when she walked in. "Miss Mitchell, your usual?" Zara froze. "I've never been here before." The barista's smile faltered. "But Mr. Kong said you." Oh. The truth crashed over her again, fresh and painful. This place, this coffee shop she thought looked charming, that she'd chosen randomly. None of it was random. None of it was her choice. Jean Woo had bought this place, trained this barista, created this entire scenario before she'd ever walked through the door. She ordered anyway. What else could she do? Taesu sat down at her table, uninvited. "You don't have to be scared of us, Miss Mitchell. You carry guns. I'm pregnant and trapped. What shouldn't I be scared of?" "Mr. Kong," Taesu said simply. "If you run, we don't chase you." "He does. And trust me, you don't want that." The warning was clear. Zara sipped her coffee and said nothing. On the 8th day, Jean Woo found her at Han River Park, watching the sunset. His SUV pulled up and he emerged alone, waving Juan and Taesu back. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the bench beside her. "Do I have a choice?" "Not really. But I'm pretending to be polite." They sat in silence for a while, watching the water turn gold in the fading light. Couples biked past. Families spread blankets for picnics. Everyone looked so normal, so free. "My mother died when I was 12, Jean Woo said suddenly. "Gang war. Wrong place, wrong time. My father remarried 4 weeks later. To my mother's sister." Zara turned to him, surprised. He'd never talked about his family before. "He didn't love my mother," Jean Woo continued, his voice flat, emotionless. "He loved not being alone. When she died, he replaced her like replacing furniture. That's when I learned that love is just another word for ownership. My father owned my mother. Then he owned her sister. Now I own the biggest cartel in East Asia, and I own you. At least I'm honest about it." "That's not ownership," Zara said quietly. "That's just sad. Maybe." He reached for her hand, and this time she let him take it, though she wasn't sure why. "But I'll never abandon you, Zara. That's more than most people get." "That's not love either." "In my world, it's close enough." They sat until the sun disappeared completely, his hand in hers, and Zara felt something she hated herself for feeling, a twisted kind of safety. He was a monster, yes. But he was a monster who'd chosen her, who'd built a cage specifically for her, who cried at ultrasounds and sat with her at sunset. Stockholm Syndrome, she told herself. That's all this is. But she wasn't sure anymore. The 9th day shattered everything. Zara was trying on a hanbok in a Myeongdong boutique, the traditional Korean dress beautiful in deep blue with gold embroidery. For a moment, admiring herself in the mirror, she almost felt normal. Almost felt like just another woman in Seoul, preparing for something special. Then Hwan's phone rang. She saw his face change through the dressing room curtain. Saw Taesu's hand move to his concealed weapon. Saw the shop owner notice and go pale. "Miss Mitchell," Taesu called, his friendly tone gone, replaced with military precision. "We need to leave." "No. I'm not dressed." The window exploded. Glass shattered everywhere. The shop owner screamed. People in the street started running. And Taesu ripped the curtain open, threw himself over Zara, and dragged her toward the back room as gunshots echoed through Myeongdong's crowded shopping district. "Stay down," Taesu shouted, covering her body with his as more shots rang out. "Don't move." Zara's ears were ringing. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip Taesu's jacket. She heard Hwan returning fire from somewhere near the front of the shop, heard screaming, heard the awful sound of bullets hitting wood and glass and possibly bodies. Then Jean Woo's voice cut through the chaos, cold and deadly. "Where is she?" "Back room. She's safe." The door burst open. Jean Woo stood there, weapon drawn, for more armed men behind him. His eyes found her immediately, did a rapid assessment, then turned to Taesu. "You're hit. Graze. She's untouched." Jean Woo's hand found Taesu's shoulder briefly, gratitude, respect, before he moved to Zara, lifting her effortlessly into his arms. She was still in the hanbok, half-dressed, shaking uncontrollably. "The baby?" His voice cracked on the words. Zara nodded, unable to speak. Outside, police sirens wailed. Jean Woo carried her to the SUV like she weighed nothing, like bullets weren't embedded in the shop walls behind them, like Seoul hadn't just turned into a war zone. In the car, Zara finally found her voice. "Who are they?" "Busan's Choi family." Jean Woo's jaw was tight, his eyes scanning the streets as they sped away. They're sending a message. What message? That they know about you. That nowhere in Seoul is safe anymore. Zara's hands moved to her stomach instinctively, protectively. What do we do? Jinwoo's hand covered hers. We leave. Tonight. Leave where? Somewhere they can't find you. 6 hours later, Zara was in a helicopter, flying over the East Sea in the dark. Jinwoo sat beside her, his hand never leaving hers, while below them, Korea disappeared into black water. She should have fought. Should have screamed. Should have done something. But the shop owner's blood had been on her borrowed hanbok, and all she could think was, at least I'm alive. At least the baby's alive. The helicopter descended toward a single-lit compound on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Udo Island. Jinwoo's fortress. Her new prison. The compound was beautiful in the way that gilded cages often are. Modern architecture perched on a clifftop, 3 sides facing endless ocean. One narrow road leading in and out, heavily guarded. Staff waited on the helipad. 8 people who bowed as Jinwoo emerged, then rushed to help Zara down from the helicopter. Welcome home, Jinwoo said, which felt like a cruel joke. Zara said nothing. She let herself be led inside, through rooms filled with luxury that meant nothing anymore, until they reached the master bedroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked black water, bulletproof glass that wouldn't open no matter how hard she pushed. How long? She asked when Jinwoo appeared in the doorway. What? How long do I stay here? He leaned against the frame, looking as exhausted as she felt. Until I've eliminated every threat. Weeks. Maybe months. I'm not your property. The words exploded out of her, 8 days of terror and rage finally breaking free. I'm not a thing you can just move around. I'm not. Yes, Zara, you are, Jinwoo interrupted, his voice going cold in a way that frightened her more than his anger ever could. The pregnancy made sure of that. The sooner you accept it, the easier this becomes for both of us. Zara's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, sobbing, while Jinwoo watched with something that might have been regret but wasn't enough to change anything. Finally, he turned and left, and she heard the lock click into place. That night, alone in luxury more complete than any poverty, Zara counted 47 ways to escape the compound. By morning, she'd planned 12 attempts. None would work, but she didn't know that yet. The days on Udo Island blurred together. Jinwoo gave her freedom within the compound. She could walk the private beach, use the gym, explore the gardens. But guards were everywhere, and beyond the compound walls, there was nowhere to go except ocean. On the 5th day, Jinwoo insisted on dinner together. They sat across from each other at a table that could have seated 12, eating food prepared by his personal chef, pretending this was normal. What if it's a girl? Jinwoo asked suddenly. I'm not playing house with you. We have to discuss these things. You're 4 months along now. We should start thinking about names, nursery designs. We don't have to do anything, Zara cut him off. You decided all of this. I'm just the incubator you trapped. He set down his chopsticks carefully. That's not fair. Fair? Zara's laugh was bitter. You want to talk about fair? Tell me, Jinwoo, what's fair about any of this? They ate in silence after that. On the 7th day, Jinwoo found her on the beach, staring at the horizon where mainland Korea was barely visible. He sat beside her without asking permission. I tried to let you go, he said quietly. 3 times. I had your plane ticket canceled, then reinstated it. Twice. The 3rd time, I realized I couldn't do it. So I made sure you'd stay. That's not letting me go. That's just prolonging the decision. I know. He picked up a handful of sand, let it slip through his fingers. My mother used to say the ocean was the only thing bigger than my father's anger. She'd bring me here, to beaches like this, and tell me that someday I'd find something worth protecting more than power. And you think that's me? I know it is. He turned to her, his expression raw in a way she'd never seen. I've killed people, Zara. Ordered deaths. Built an empire on violence and fear. I'm not a good man. I've never pretended to be. But you looked at me like I could be, and that made me want to try. So yes, I took away your choice. Yes, I trapped you. And yes, I'd do it all again. Because losing you was worse than becoming the monster everyone already thinks I am. Zara should have felt nothing. Should have been immune to his words by now. But the truth was messier, more complicated. I can't forgive you. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to survive with me. The helicopter arrived on the 9th day, unexpected and unannounced. Jinwoo's men immediately mobilized, weapons drawn, surrounding the landing pad. Zara watched from the window as 2 people emerged, a Korean official she didn't recognize, and a woman in a business suit who carried herself with unmistakable authority. Who is that? Zara asked when Jinwoo came to get her. U.S. Embassy. They want to see you. Her heart leaped. They found me. Your friend Naomi filed a missing persons report. They've been looking. He studied her face carefully. Do you want to see them? It was a test. They both knew it. Zara nodded. The woman introduced herself as Agent Sarah Chen from the U.S. Embassy in Seoul. She was Korean-American, sharp-eyed, and looked at Jean Woo with professional disdain. Ms. Mitchell, Agent Chen said, her voice gentle but firm. Your friend Naomi reported you missing 2 weeks ago. We've been searching for you. How did you find me? Zara asked, barely daring to hope. We've been monitoring Mr. Kang's movements for some time. Agent Chen's eyes flicked to Jean Woo. When you disappeared, we cross-referenced his activities. Monitoring him? Why? I need to speak with you alone, Ms. Mitchell. Jean Woo's jaw tightened. Anything you say to her, you can say in front of me. With respect, Mr. Kong, I need to assess Ms. Mitchell's welfare privately. You can refuse, but I'll have to report that you denied access to a U.S. citizen. The standoff lasted 30 seconds before Jean Woo nodded curtly. 10 minutes. Agent Chen led Zara to a small office. The moment the door closed, she asked, Are you being held against your will? Yes. I'm pregnant. He did it deliberately to trap me. Agent Chen wrote notes rapidly. Are you in immediate physical danger? No. He's never hurt me. But I can't leave. We can extract you tonight. Witness protection. New identity. Complete safety for you and your baby. Hope flooded through Zara so powerfully she felt dizzy. Really? You can do that? Agent Chen paused, and that pause lasted too long. Yes. But there's something you need to know first. The hope started to curdle. What? Your job at Noir Fashion House. The position that brought you to Seoul. It wasn't a coincidence. Zara's blood went cold. What do you mean? You were recruited by the CIA, unknowingly. You were an asset. Agent Chen pulled out a folder, laid documents across the desk. Your NYU fashion program. The professor who recommended you for the Seoul internship. The scholarship that paid your way. All of it was us. The room spun. Zara gripped the desk edge. That's not possible. I wish it wasn't true. Agent Chen showed her the evidence. Recruitment files Zara had never seen, assessments she'd never filled out, surveillance photos from before she'd ever met Jean Woo. We identify potential assets. People with the right profile, personality, access. We create opportunities for them to end up where we need them. Why me? You were perfect. African-American woman, fashion background, no family ties in Seoul, naturally charming. Someone who could get close to Kong Jean Woo without raising suspicion. Get close for what? Intelligence gathering. We needed someone inside his organization. Or at least close enough to observe patterns, relationships, vulnerabilities. Unwitting assets are the most effective. Your genuine reactions, your real emotions made you credible. Zara felt like she was drowning. So my entire life here was your operation? The job was ours. How you met Jean Woo, how your relationship developed, that was organic. We didn't predict you'd actually fall for him. I didn't fall for him. He trapped me. After you fell for him, Agent Chen said gently. We have surveillance footage, Zara. You were genuinely in love before the pregnancy. The truth was impossible to deny. Zara had been in love. Maybe still was, which made everything so much worse. So Jean Woo used me. And you used me. Everyone just used me. We can protect you now. Witness protection. Testify against Jean Woo. We'll relocate you and the baby somewhere he'll never find you. And what do you get? Agent Chen didn't flinch. Kong Jean Woo's organization dismantled. His network exposed. 40% of East Asian smuggling operations shut down. So I'm still an asset. Just a different kind. You're a survivor. And we're offering you a way out. The door opened. Jean Woo entered, his face unreadable. 10 minutes is up. What did you tell her? Everything, Zara said, her voice dead. The CIA. The operation. All of it. Something flickered across Jean Woo's face. Surprise? No, recognition. You knew, Zara realized. You knew I was CIA. I suspected from the second month, he admitted. But by then, I didn't care. You were already mine. Agent Chen stood. Ms. Mitchell, you have a choice now. Come with me. New life, new identity, complete protection. Or stay with the man who trapped you. Choose carefully. They moved to the beach for the confrontation, all four of them, with guards maintaining a perimeter and the helicopter waiting. Jean Woo and Agent Chen stood on opposite sides like forces pulling at her, and Zara stood in the middle, trapped between two cages. Come with me, Agent Chen said. Debrief. Testimony. Relocation. You'll never see Seoul again, but you'll be safe. Stay with me, Jean Woo countered. I'll dismantle the cartel. Take legitimate business offers. Give prosecutors everything. We'll disappear together, Singapore, New Zealand, wherever you want. Your choice. My choice? Zara's laugh was hollow. I haven't had a choice since I got off the plane in Seoul. You both made sure of that. This is different, Agent Chen insisted. This is real freedom. Is it? Zara turned to her. If I go with you, what happens? Witness protection forever. New name. No contact with old life. And I'd still be your asset. You'd still be using me. It's not the same, isn't it? Zara looked between them. The criminal who'd trapped her with pregnancy and the government that had trapped her with lies. At least Jinwoo was honest about what he wanted. At least I know exactly what kind of monster he is. She turned to Jinwoo. You said you'd burn it all down. Were you lying? No. I'll give them everything. Full cooperation. Immunity deal. We'll start over, completely clean. Men like him don't change, Agent Chen warned. Maybe not, Zara said. But at least I'm choosing my cage this time. She looked at Agent Chen, and she could see the woman already knew her answer. Tell Naomi I'm okay. Tell her I chose this. All of it. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake. That's more than either of you gave me before. The helicopter took off, carrying Agent Chen back to Seoul, back to a world where Zara had been a pawn in games she'd never known existed. She stood on the beach with Jinwoo, his hand finding hers, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. I didn't choose you because I forgive you, she said. I know. I chose you because I trust your monster more than I trust theirs. I'll take it. He looked at her, this man who destroyed and rebuilt her world. The deal is already in motion. Prosecutor meetings start next week. I'll give them everything, names, locations, operations. The Biko cartel ends. Everything I built gone. And then? Then we disappear. Become different people. James and Zara Kong, retired businessman and his wife, expecting their first child in New Zealand or Singapore or wherever you want to raise her. What if it's a boy? It's a girl. I can feel it. His hand moved to her stomach, where her pregnancy was finally showing, and she deserves better than this. Better than me. But I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the father she needs. Zara looked out at the ocean, at the endless water that had once represented freedom and now just represented distance from everything else. I should hate you. You should. I probably do some days. That's fair. But I also, she stopped, couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't know how to finish it. Jinwoo turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You don't have to love me, Zara. You don't have to forgive me. Just survive with me. That's all I'm asking. And because the baby was kicking, and because she was tired of fighting, and because sometimes survival meant accepting complicated truths, she nodded. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't love. But it was choice, and after everything, that was enough. 6 weeks passed in testimony and dismantling. Jinwoo kept his promise with a thoroughness that surprised even the prosecutors. He gave them everything. 40 years of Biko cartel operations laid bare in documented detail. Names, routes, operations, money trails. He sat in interrogation rooms for 8 hours a day, Zara watching through one-way glass, her hand on her growing belly, watching the man who'd trapped her methodically destroy everything he'd built. Why are you really doing this? She asked one night, back at the compound between court sessions. They were in the bedroom, Jinwoo going through legal documents while Zara struggled to find a comfortable sleeping position at 6 months pregnant. He looked up, considered the question seriously. Because she deserves better, he said finally, gesturing to her stomach. Our daughter deserves a father who isn't looking over his shoulder, who isn't one bullet away from leaving her an orphan, who can take her to school without bodyguards. I can't undo what I did to you, Zara, but I can give her a different life. The ultrasound the next week confirmed it. A girl, healthy and active, measuring exactly on schedule. Jinwoo cried again, silently, his hand over Zara's as they watched their daughter move on the screen. Era, he whispered. It means beautiful. And altar. A place of sacrifice and reverence. Era Lily, Zara added. She gets both worlds. Korean and American. Both of us. Era Lily Kong. Jinwoo tested the name, smiled. She's going to be so much better than either of us. 3 months later, immunity was granted. The Biko cartel was dismantled, 47 people arrested. Operations across East Asia shut down. Jinwoo forfeited everything. Money, property, influence, in exchange for a new identity and safe passage. They left Korea on a private jet, Zara 8 months pregnant. Jinwoo now legally James Kong, retired businessman. They flew to Queenstown, New Zealand, to a life that felt impossible after everything they'd survived. The cottage was small compared to the penthouse, the compound, the luxury they'd left behind. But it had mountains and a lake and privacy without prison walls. James cooked breakfast while Zara struggled with morning sickness that had returned with a vengeance in the third trimester. They argued about nursery colors and baby names they'd already chosen and whether they needed a second crib for when Era stayed with her grandmother. Except Zara's mother was in Atlanta and hadn't spoken to her in a year, and James's mother was dead. They were starting from nothing, which was terrifying and freeing in equal measure. "Do you miss it?" Zara asked one morning, watching him chop vegetables with the precision of someone who'd done more violent things with knives. The power? James didn't lie to her anymore. Every day. Every single day I wake up and remember I used to control 40% of luxury smuggling in East Asia. Now I control what groceries we buy. It's an adjustment. Do you regret it? He looked at her belly, at the life they'd created. Ask me when she's born. If I can hold my daughter without fear of someone trying to kill her to get to me, then no. I won't regret anything. The phone rang 3 days later. Unknown number. James's face went cold in the way Zara had learned to recognize. Danger, threat, the past reaching forward. "Who is this?" He answered in Korean. Pause. His jaw tightened. That's impossible. He hung up, but the damage was done. Zara saw it in his eyes. Someone from Seoul knew where they were. "We might have to move again," he said quietly. No. Zara stood, one hand on her back, the other on her massive belly. "No more running. We deal with it here. Together." "Zara, I chose this. I chose you. I chose this complicated, messy, impossible life. So we face it together, or what was the point of any of it?" James looked at her, really looked at her, and something in his expression softened. Together, then. 3 weeks later, Zara went into labor at 2 a.m. James drove to the hospital with the controlled panic of a man who'd faced death dozens of times, but had never been more terrified. He held her hand through contractions, whispered encouragement in Korean and English, and when the pain got so bad she screamed at him that she hated him, he just held on tighter. "You're doing so well," he said, brushing sweat-soaked hair from her face. "So strong. She's almost here." "If I die doing this," Zara gasped between contractions. "You won't. But if I do, promise me you'll tell her the truth. About everything." "What truth?" "That her father was a monster who became a man. That her mother was a spy who became a survivor. That together they made something good." James's voice broke. "You're not going to die. Promise me anyway." "I promise." For hours later, Era Lily Kong entered the world screaming, perfect and tiny and completely unaware that her existence had dismantled an empire. The nurse placed her on Zara's chest, and the world narrowed to just the three of them: mother, father, daughter. "She's beautiful," James whispered, tears streaming freely now. "She looks like you," Zara said, exhausted and exhilarated and more complete than she'd ever felt. "Poor thing." They laughed, giddy with relief and joy and the overwhelming reality of new life. Era quieted, her tiny fist wrapping around James's finger with surprising strength, and something in his face transformed completely. "Hello, Era Lily," he said softly in Korean. "I'm your father. I'm going to mess this up sometimes. Probably a lot. But I promise I'll love you every day of your life." Zara watched him with their daughter and felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness. That would take years, maybe forever. Not love, or at least, not the simple kind. But something. Acceptance, maybe. Or hope. The hospital room was quiet except for Era's soft breathing. James sat in the chair beside Zara's bed, holding their daughter like she was made of glass, afraid to move, afraid to break the moment. "I never thought I'd have this," he admitted. "Family. Not the kind that matters. Not the kind worth protecting more than power." "You have it now," Zara said. "Don't waste it." "I won't." He looked at her, this woman he'd trapped and broken and somehow ended up building a life with. "I know you don't love me. I know you might never forgive me. But Zara, don't," she interrupted gently. "Don't say it if you don't mean it. And if you do mean it, don't say it to make yourself feel better. Just show up. Every day. For her. That's all I'm asking." He nodded, understanding. Love wasn't words anymore. It was action. It was choice. It was waking up every day and choosing to stay, to try, to be better than yesterday. They took Era home 3 days later, to the cottage in the mountains where no one knew who they'd been. James fumbled with car seats and diapers and all the mundane tasks of fatherhood with the intensity he'd once applied to criminal operations. Zara watched him struggle and didn't help, because he needed to learn, needed to earn this. Their first night home, Era cried for 3 hours straight. Nothing worked, not feeding, not changing, not rocking. James paced the cottage with her, singing Korean lullabies his mother had sung to him, and Zara sat on the couch, so exhausted she could barely keep her eyes open, listening to this man who'd once ordered death singing softly to their screaming daughter. I don't know what I'm doing, James admitted, defeated. Neither do I, Zara said. Welcome to parenthood. He laughed, and Era finally quieted, as if she'd just been waiting for them to admit their shared helplessness. They stood there in the dark cottage, the three of them, and it felt like the first honest moment they'd ever shared. People asked Zara later, when Era was older, and the story became something they could talk about in careful, edited terms, if she regretted it. Staying with the man who'd trapped her. Choosing the criminal over the government. Building a life from ashes and lies. The truth was complicated. She should hate him. Some days she did. When Era asked about grandparents and Zara had to explain why they didn't visit family. When old nightmares woke her. The pregnancy test. The locked doors. The gunfire in Myeongdong. When she remembered that none of this was her choice at first. But other days, she watched James teach Era Korean while cooking dinner, or heard him tell their daughter stories about a mother she'd never meet, or woke to find him standing over Era's crib at 3 a.m., just watching her breathe, and she felt something that might not be love but was close enough. Was it worth it? Her friend Naomi asked during their first video call in over a year. Naomi had been furious, betrayed, and finally, grudgingly accepting. Everything you gave up? Zara looked across the room where James was attempting to assemble a high chair, cursing softly in Korean while Era watched from her bouncer, fascinated by her father's incompetence. I didn't give up anything, Zara said slowly. I had everything taken from me. My choice. My freedom. My future. But then I took something back. I chose this life. This man. This daughter. On my terms, with full knowledge of what I was choosing. Is it what I would have picked if I'd had a real choice from the beginning? No. But it's what I picked with the choices I had. And that matters. Does he make you happy? Zara considered. He makes me survive. And some days, survival looks like happiness. The months passed. Era grew. Learned to smile, to laugh, to recognize her parents' voices. James was patient with her in ways Zara had never imagined possible from the man who'd trapped her. He changed every diaper without complaint, took every 3 a.m. feeding shift, sang the same Korean lullabies until Zara knew them by heart too. But the past never completely disappeared. The phone calls came sporadically, soul checking in, old enemies sniffing around. James handled them with the same cold efficiency he'd once used to run a cartel, making it clear that Kong Jinwoo was dead and James Kong had nothing worth taking. On Era's first birthday, they threw a small party in the cottage. Just the three of them, a homemade cake that James somehow managed not to burn, and a pile of toys Era was too young to appreciate. They sang happy birthday in English and Korean, and Era smashed her first taste of cake all over her face, and for that moment, they were just a normal family celebrating a normal milestone. That night, after Era was asleep, James and Zara sat on the porch watching stars emerge over the mountains. I need to tell you something, James said. Zara's stomach tightened. What? I love you. He said it simply, without drama. I know you don't want to hear it. I know it doesn't change what I did. But it's true. And I'm tired of not saying it. Zara was quiet for a long time. I don't love you back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know. But I don't hate you anymore either. Most days. I'll take it. And sometimes, she stopped, struggling with the words. Sometimes I look at you with Era, and I think maybe you're not the monster I thought you were. Or maybe you are, but you're trying not to be. And that's something. It's everything, James said quietly. They sat in silence. This couple who'd been forged in fire and deception, who'd built something improbable and fragile and real from the worst possible beginning. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't a romance. It was survival that looked like partnership, necessity that looked like choice. Inside, Era started crying. They both stood immediately, but James gestured for Zara to stay. I've got her. She watched through the window as he lifted their daughter, rocked her gently, sang the Korean lullaby that always calmed her. And she thought about all the ways life never turned out like you planned. About how sometimes the worst thing that ever happened to you could also lead to the best thing. About how survival meant accepting complicated truths about monsters and choices and the messy reality of human connection. Was this love? She still didn't know. But it was something. And after everything, something was enough. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you for staying with Zara's journey. This tale of survival, choice, and complicated love in the most impossible circumstances shows us that sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones we make with full knowledge of their cost. What would you have done in Zara's position? Would you have chosen differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to hear your take on this impossible choice. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more content like this, stories that don't shy away from difficult topics, that explore the gray areas of human relationships and choices, hit that subscribe button. We post new stories every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. And if this story made you think, made you feel something, or if you just want to support the channel, give it a thumbs up. It helps more people find these stories, and it lets me know you want more content that pushes boundaries and asks hard questions. This is just the beginning of Zara and James's story. Part 2 is already in the works. Because remember that phone call? The past isn't done with them yet. Era's first birthday might have been peaceful, but in a world where James used to control an empire, peace never lasts long. Subscribe now so you don't miss part 2. Trust me, you'll want to know what happens when Soul comes calling again. Until next time, remember, survival sometimes means making the choice everyone else thinks is wrong. And sometimes that's the bravest choice of all.